Hello guys, welcome to Gongura Guidance. This is my name Subhash. Little bit about myself. And these are the persons for whom I'm doing this video series. And whatever I'll be telling you, I've learned from these people. So let's straight away get into the video. So one thing which I want you to take from this whole video series, even though you're not watching all the lectures or something, is see the syllabus, attach PYQs as per the syllabus topics, cover all of them, and refer to some toppers copies for new ideas and the latest trends. Once again, this is the syllabus. In our previous lectures, we have already covered emotional intelligence and its utility, the basic concepts. In this video, we'll be seeing ethics and human interface, basically the first part, the essence of ethics, determinants, consequence, maybe we can do it in the next video, but essence and determinants. So if we attach the syllabus, basically essence, determinants, consequences, dimensions, ethics in private and public relationships. This is as per the syllabus directly, which I have taken from the syllabus only. Essence, determinants, consequences, dimensions, ethics in private and public relationships. Next we can go to human values, but in this chapter I'll be dealing mainly regarding the ethics part. Basically essence and determinants in this video. Next video I'll cover consequences and dimensions in private and public relationships. So let's analyze some PYQs, what the UPSCs are trying to ask us, and how we can reduce the questions into the syllabus topics. The first question in 2013, the good of an individual is contained in the good of all. What do you understand by this statement? How can this principle be implemented in public life? So basically, the examiner is trying to find what you understand from the statement, the good of an individual is contained in the good of all. So basically, this is about the source of ethics. The good of an individual is coming from the good of all. How the society is teaching individual ethics. If the society is good of all, it gives the individual good. So basically, the statement is essentially trying to highlight the role of socialization, role of society in inculcating ethical values, role of societal institutions such as family, education, and other social institutions. So this is what this statement is trying to find out. And how can this principle be implemented in public life? So in public life, whenever you are a public person, you are part of society. If you try to be a good person, you will be showing to many individuals who are trying to aspire from you. If you try to show some negative qualities or negative aspects in your public life, it will get reflected in the good of individual also. This is what this question is trying to find. So basically, you can quote some examples and arguments in these lines. So this comes in the sources part. Which will be part of determinants only. Yes. Let's see the next question from the 2014. Human beings should always be treated as ends in themselves and never as merely means. Straight away, we know that this is the basic premise of deontology, which is against from utilitarian. So if you have already read about the theories, you know that there are the two most important theories, which is utilitarian, which focuses mainly on ends, what the outcome of ethical actions is, and the other one is deontology, where the means which you employ to get the ends is also becomes of utmost importance. So what the question asks is explain the meaning and significance of these statements. So there has to be two specific subheadings. One is the meaning, one is the significance, and then there is third part also, giving its implications in the modern techno-economic society. Implications. So there are three subparts in this question. One is the meaning, significance, implications. Meaning mostly you have to explain the premise of deontology. You have to quote one or two thinkers. You can quote Kant, you can quote Gandhi. All these focus especially on means, and you can say tell about the significance of the this premise, how means also becomes even utmost importance, and what are the basically implications of this in modern techno-economic society. So in modern society where which is hugely dependent on technology and which is hugely dependent on economic processes, how this focusing on means becomes at most importance. So if you don't focus on means, technology can be misused. You can create nuclear bombs, you can create cyber threats, you can create, take any technology, whatever ethical issues you can think of, designer babies, all these comes under the implications of technology, techno part. And if it comes to the economic part, think of white collar crimes, think of economic process, economic processes for profit, but which are not ethical in means. So all those come in the under the economic part. You can elaborate on those. Basically, give a short argument and one substantiate it with examples. So environmental ethics, this we deal with in the next part. This comes under the dimensions. And let's come to the 2016 question. Law and ethics are considered to be two tools for controlling human conduct so as to make it conducive to civilized social existence. So this is the statement, and the subparts which the question asks is discuss how they achieve this objective. This is going to be your first part. Giving examples. So he clearly is asking to give examples. So without examples, you won't get much marks in this second part. And anyways, we have to focus on giving examples so that it remains simple for the examiner to understand. And in this particular question, he is specifically asking for examples, so they become even more important. Giving examples show how the two differ in their approaches. So once again, see the question. Law and ethics are considered to be two tools. One is law, one tool is law, and the other tool is ethics for controlling human conduct so as to make it conducive to civilized social existence. So immediately there is one subtopic called law and ethics. What is law? What is ethics? Where law becomes more important than ethics in controlling human conduct, where ethics becomes more important than law in human conduct. And there is a concept of Lawrence Kohlberg's post-conventional various stages of society, pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. So all this comes under this part. So I'll be explaining a little bit in the later part, but you have to say how law tries to achieve the objective of controlling human conduct, then how ethics tries to achieve. 2 points on law, 2 points on 3 points on ethics, and giving examples how they both differ. How law differs from ethics. So basically, law tries to punish the individuals for violation. Law tries to enforce, and ethics tries to uh, punish through sanctions and violations. And ethics is more societal based. Law is more institutional based. Any institution which has legitimacy can make a law, but ethics is overall derived from the society. All those you need to understand before you can properly attempt this question. So we will be dealing with it. And then this question from another 2016, how ethics contributes to social and human well-being. Basically, this is about the consequences part and the syllabus. This will be dealing in the next video. Without commonly shared and widely entrenched moral values and obligations. So this is from the values part. These questions will be dealing in the next video, next to next video. Coming to the morality part, you need to understand what is the difference between ethics and morality. Ethics is basically standards of behavior which tell you what is right or wrong, which are basically established in the overall society. And morals are more individualistic. What you feel is moral. Morality can differ from individual to individual. A Hindu person have some morals, a Muslim person have another morals. So morals can differ from individual to individual, and they are basically from within the individual. What he himself perceives as moral, and ethics is a little bit more decided by the society. So when you know this basic difference between ethics and morality, You can try attempting this question in a better way. With regard to morality of actions, one view is that means is of paramount importance, and the other view is that ends justify the means. Basically, again, this is talking about the debate between utilitarian and deontology, teleology and deontology. Uh, which view do you think is more appropriate? Justify your answer. Which view do you think is more appropriate? Justify your answer. So you have to give both the views. You have to tell what is good in this view, bad in this view, good in this view, bad in this view. Which one is more appropriate view for you? And you have to say why it is more appropriate. This will be the justification part. So all these parts, when you write it nicely, it will fetch you good marks in this question. So basically, you can define teleology, the premise, few theories, example, just quoting only, no need to write much. And the other view, deontology, uh, again the premise, definition, few theories and examples, thinkers, and the positives and negatives of each, which I will be dealing later. You have to write all those, and which view you think is more appropriate. Just writing positives and negatives of both is not important. He is specifically asking which view do you think is more appropriate. So as I've already told you before, use the words directly from the question. Simply write according to my view, this is more appropriate, and give a justification. Whatever you take, just take justification of the above thinkers only, and scenarios where it is more applicable. So both the views are more appropriate. So you can a better answer to this would be, in these scenarios this view is more applicable, and in these scenarios this view is more applicable. So in that way, whenever the life of people, life of minorities or such things are at stake, the deontology becomes more important. And whenever finding the greatest happiness for majority of the people becomes more important, the utilitarian view becomes more important. So you can write a balance argument that this is my view, and justification can be as we showed before. In these areas it is better, in these areas this one is better. So that will be the justification on these lines. So this is from the quote part, which I'll be dealing later. What are the basic principles of public life? Let's state any three of these suitable examples. So there are few basic principles which should be followed by people who are in the public life. Public life, you need to know what exactly public life is. It can include government servants, civil servants, military people. It can include celebrities. It can include influencers. All those people who remain in the public life, where people can watch them, and it is a bit more open in the media or society as against private relationships. This comes in the private and public part, which I'll be dealing later. And let's see the ethics. It is believed that adherence to ethics in human actions would ensure smooth functioning. Again, this comes to the consequences part. How ethics ensures smooth functioning of an organization. So this also we'll be dealing in the later video. So up till here I'll be covering in this video. So as I've condensed, most of the questions from the essence part are based on law and ethics, either morality and ethics, and based on theories, especially means versus ends. There are other theories also, but this one is most UPSC favorite topic. So these three things and a few topics plus, we can go one step further and cover. And basically determinants of ethics in human actions comes from what are the sources of ethics, from where individuals learn various aspects of ethics, and what are its determinants. How can an action be determined whether it is ethical or not? What comes into play? What are its sources will come into play? What is the circumstance of the or the situation comes into play? What are the means employed comes into play? What is the outcome derived that also comes into play? These all come under the determinants part. And again, from the syllabus part, these are the consequences, dimensions, and private and public. And this I'll be dealing in the next video. So whenever this is what I've condensed from my notes and seeing few toppers copies. So whenever there is a question on ethics, basically the essence part or determinants part, you have to ensure that there is you write a definition on ethics, And basically, please by heart the definition of John Day. It will make your definition a bit more specific, and you won't waste time in thinking and writing. Whenever you think and write, you will waste 10 to 15 seconds, and you have to save this for every point. Basically, ethics definition by John Day is establish standards of society which guide an individual in deciding whether it is right or wrong. By heart it, and substantiate it with thinkers quote. And substantiation, you can also use concepts of other thinkers, such as Cicero has given a concept of summum bonum, which means finding the ultimate good for the society. Also, Aristotle talks about eudaimonia, the ultimate happiness. So, write a definition of John Day and substantiate it with the concepts of either Cicero or Aristotle, summum bonum or eudaimonia. So, if the question is based on ethics versus morals, you should know the definition of morals. You should know the difference between ethics and morals, and you can have a diagram prepared beforehand itself, so that you can use it straight away. And whenever there is a comparison of concepts, think which diagram you can actually try to incorporate. For example, for ethics and morals, you can use this diagram of ethics, morals. This one is what is ethical but not moral part. This one becomes what is moral but not ethical part. This is where both ethicality and morality coincide. So what is ethical and not moral? Something you can think of um, committing sati, for example, in ancient times. It is used to be considered as ethical, which was guided by religious values and other things. But if it comes to the morality of individual, many people such as Raja Ram Mohan Rai considered it to be a immoral action. And when it comes to what is moral and not ethical, you can think of something like fight against the same sati practice, or there are various other examples you have to prepare beforehand itself. And again, similarly, when it comes to the values, uh, just have a definition of R.K. Mukherjee. Values are those which are actually desirable. So, what people value or aspire for. Again, you can use the concept of ethics and values. Not all which are valuable or ethical, not all which are ethical or valuable. There are such things. And also, basically, values guide both ethics and morals, and both these act in guiding individuals' human behavior. So, you can incorporate such diagram also. So please prepare whatever you want to use beforehand itself. There is no time in the examination hall to think and actually come up with a beautiful diagram, especially for the non-code part, non-code question part. For the code question part, I'll try to tell you how you can quickly think of making a diagram based on the pictographic representation of the quote itself. I'll be talking about that in the code-based questions. Again, there is another question on law, ethics versus laws. You need to know the definition of law, you need to know the definition of rules, you need to know the definition of regulations. There are subtle differences between these three. Just know them beforehand itself, so that, for example, in future, if the question is on either this or this, you don't write them in the similar lines as law. So definition, again the relationship, again one diagram. And this is what I'm talking about, Lawrence Kohlberg's stages of society analysis. Basically, he talks about three stages: pre-conventional society, conventional society, and post-conventional society. And in pre-conventional society, the traditions and values of families becomes a source of ethics. Mostly they'll be deciding whether an action is ethical or not. And in conventional society, laws, these rules and regulations will decide whether an action is ethical or not. But in post-conventional society, individuals own conscience. People will rise above these external things, and internal source takes place, which is the conscience part. The individual's own conscience will decide whether what he is taking up, the action which he is taking up, is whether ethical or not. So whenever there is such thing, you can use this concept also. Just keep it in mind. All these which I'm trying to tell you are basically tools. So using these tools only, you can think of what the question is actually demanding, and align these tools as per the demand of the question, and then finish the question as quickly as possible. So you need to by heart these tools, so that whenever the question is on this topic, you quickly remember these tools, and straight away align to the demand of the question, and then finish the answer in 7.5 minutes. So when it comes to the theories part, one aspect is virtue-based ethics, which was basically given by Plato and Aristotle. This was started way long back, as we know, in the Greek era. So they talk about 4 cardinal virtues. You need to think of by heart this, or make a mnemonic such as I made it as justice for World Trade Center. So this is basically justice. This is wisdom, temperance, and I'm unable to remember the last one. And again, the golden mean, which is basically do not go for extremes, which is this is similar on the lines of Buddha. So try to find the Madhyam Marg and or the golden mean, which Aristotle talks about. Basically, you can use all these. You can use these tools both in the questions and case studies part. So just keep in mind. And this is what I'm talking about, UPSC's favorite topic: consequentialism or teleology versus deontology or means-based ethics. So in teleology, there are 2 important branches. One is the utilitarian, which came first, which is also called gross or quantitative, because it only talks about whether the action is going to give greatest happiness to the greatest number or not. It doesn't differentiate between whether the happiness is qualitative or quantitative. That is why this is more quantitative in nature. And this is gross because it talks about the overall happiness of greatest number. And you can use this case of Keene versus Dudley and Stevens. Basically, if you watch Michael Sandel's lectures, he talks about this actual scenario which happened in real life in 16th or 17th century England, where a voyage will be undertaken, and they are the captains or something. Some mishap happens, and when they are trying to survive on the boat, there will be a sick boy who has fallen sick due to seasickness or something, and they are already starving. So one of them suggests let's, rather than killing all of us, basically they are talking about greatest happiness of greatest number. They are ignoring the one person, one boy, one sick boy. He will suggest that let's kill this already sick boy. Anyways, he is going to die, so let's just kill him and eat him. Basically, they are talking about eating the flesh of the sick boy and then surviving, and which they actually later commit. And while they are surviving in such way, rescue ship comes, rescues them, and when they ask them, they will tell this incident, and there will be case against them for homicide of actually killing the sick person, and they argue against the state. Basically, Queen is the state, and win this case, that they did not do this out of negative intention, but only to survive and as a survival instinct. They actually win this case. This talks about the utilitarian philosophy in a sense. So you can quote this, and this philosophy also talks about basically 2 sovereign masters. You can use this specific keyword also. These are pleasure and pain. So the only idea for humans is to either maximize pleasure or minimize pain. These are the only 2 sovereign masters. So the greatest happiness for greatest number becomes greatest pleasure for greatest number, or decreasing greatest pain for greatest number. So for the criticism part of the utilitarian comes Philip Morris tobacco case of Czech Republic, where this tobacco company actually argues with the Czech country that see, whatever we are paying as taxes or compensation to people who die of tobacco cancer is much more economically profitable than asking people not to buy tobacco and not giving any compensation or such things. So we are basically talking about greatest economic benefit by encouraging people to actually smoke. So when people actually smoke, they will die early. If they are dying early, state doesn't have the responsibility to take welfare of them. So many of the resources will be saved, and also while purchasing the cigarettes, they will be paying taxes. So they argue that for the country, smoking is actually beneficial. So such kind of ethical dilemmas also arise. And again, the Ford Pinto case also, this also even while manufacturing the car itself, they know that there is a defect in the car. They know that some people are going to lose lives, so they inculcate the value of life also into the cost of making the car itself. And they argue that if out of 100 cars that we sold, if 5 goes to accident and people die, we have already incorporated the human life cost in it, so we will compensate them rather than bringing back all the cars which have been manufactured and rectifying them. That is more economically not prudent for them. It is more economical for them to actually inculcate the value of life and compensating it. This is what they thought of. So such kind of ethical dilemmas will arise in this also. So this can become the criticism of utilitarian philosophy. And when it comes to the qualified utilitarianism, this is once again I forgot to tell you, this is by Jeremy Bentham and this is by J.S. Mill. So he talks about, so after this philosophy, so many people criticize that you are ignoring minorities, you are ignoring the value of people who doesn't have a voice, you are trying to find such cheap tricks or tactics just for economic benefit. So there will be a lot of criticism. So J.S. Mill talks about qualified utilitarianism, and he argues that utilitarian is not just quantitative but qualitative. There is the qualitative difference in pleasure. Not every pleasure is same. You can talk about demonic pleasures or something, as in Hindu philosophy. There they talk about deriving pleasure by seeking the value, by seeking the suffering of other people. There are some idiots who try to just bully people and try to rag people and try to gain pleasure out of it. That is also a pleasure. But how do you think that pleasure can be equal to gaining perfection in chess or gaining perfection in some sports or gaining uh, any other thing, watching some intellectual videos or something, any kind of such higher value pleasures? So basically he's trying to differentiate between higher pleasures and lower pleasures. And the famous quote of him is Pushpin is not equal to poetry. So there is which he argues that when you actually are able to understand literature and appreciate poetry, that is of much higher pleasure which you are seeking rather than simple game, the pleasure which you are seeking from a simple game such as dice, which is also called Pushpin. So another concept, another theory is the libertarian theory, which is given by Nozick. This is also talked about in Michael Sandel lectures. So libertarians basically they argue that the state, if it is trying to tax people, it is trying to take the actual work of people, and if it is trying to actually take the work of people, it is making them as slaves. So it is kind of modern day slavery. By forcing people to pay tax, you are basically forcing them to do work for you as a state, and you are making them your slaves in terms of modern sense. This is what libertarians talk about. So any action which tries to do the welfare of people by taxing people is not ethical as per libertarians. And then the other extreme theory, which another extreme theory is ethical egoism, which is talked about by Ayn Rand. It says that any action is moral or ethical only if it is benefiting the greatest happiness for the own individual and not for society around him. Every individual has to think about what is going to give the most benefit to him. It is something on the similar on the lines of Charvak philosophy, but not exactly similar, because it talks about long-term happiness. You shouldn't lie, because if you are lying, someday or the other your lie will get caught and you will lose trust and you will lose much more credibility, or you have to constantly think about and use resources to make that lie a truth. So that is, even though it gives a short term benefit, in the long term benefit it is actually much detrimental to you. So it talks about such individual egoism where you have to be extremely an action can be ethical if it is giving you benefit for the long term. And this is the other spectrum, ethical altruism, which is something on the similar lines of soldiers who are uh, not taking a back step to even give away their life for the country. It is talking about thinking an action is moral if it is trying to do good for the other people and not for one. This is for oneself, then this is for other people. And again, this is deontology by Kant. And whenever you are talking about deontology, you have to use categorical imperative, because this is a concept by Kant where he says that do not think of um the circumstances, all these things. There have to be some universal principles which you can actually use to determine the ethicality or morality of an action. So in categorical imperative, there are basically two concepts, which is the principle of universalizability, because anything which you are trying to determine if it is moral or not, you need to know it should apply for all universal situations. It should apply for you, it should apply for themselves, and everywhere it should apply without any ifs and buts. And the second one is reciprocity. So it basically talks about do not treat others as how you want to be treated by. So basically it is more positive. Do not is usually used by Confucius. Do not treat this other person as how you do not want to be treated by. This is the positive part of the same thing, which is on the similar lines. Treat the other person in the same way as you wanted to be treated by. This is reciprocity. And in deontology also, you can also quote Gandhi, where he talks about Gandhi's talisman. For every action which you are going to take, you need to it is ethical if you are thinking about the poorest of the poor. And then there is Ethics of Care by Carol Gilligan. This is a little bit on the feministic lines, where much more care or care related values such as empathy and compassion are a little bit more focused, and action is ethical if such values are being taken into consideration. And this is another concept, which is communitarianism. So community is the overall society in which one lives in. So for an individual, his family, his extended family, even his pets can become his own community. So if he's trying to see the benefit of his own community, that such action becomes communitarianism. And contractarianism is basically another concept where some contract is trying to be entered into the by society, such that which actions are ethical and which actions are not ethical are predetermined itself. So there are few sub-concepts in this. One is social contract theory by Hobbes or Rousseau. Basically both have talked about it. He talked about it first and he elaborated and explained it in a better manner later. This concept is nothing but the whole society comes into a contract such that we will give up some individual rights and freedoms to the state, such that state actually protects us, and it is a bit more beneficial for us in the long run. That social contract is what is talking about, voluntarily giving up some rights for protection of each and every one of us. And this is veil of ignorance concept by John Rawls. This is also on the lines of justice based approach. So basically he talks about veil of ignorance. People should come back to this pre society where no one will know, because of this veil of ignorance, that where they are going to end up, whether they are going to be in the rich family or middle class family or poor family or whatever markers are there to differentiate between people, caste, class, religion, gender, anything, race, any other discriminations. No one is going to know where which discrimination they are going to get or which privilege they are going to get. And then in such pre society, they have to make laws such that which are going to be followed in the after taking off the veil of ignorance. So when such ignorance is there, then only all the people will think about each and every other person, because they are in fear that they do not know where they are going to end up. So they'll make a little bit more just laws. This is the concept of John Rawls. You can quote all these are, once again I'm saying, these are tools through which you are able to write better arguments. If you use these tools in your answers as arguments, it will be a little more specific. And the other one is natural rights theory by John Locke, where there are some inalienable natural rights to as being part of humans only, which cannot be ignored, such as right to property, right to life, right to liberty, such things. And then there is natural law theory by Thomas Aquinas. He talks about a natural overall law where which prevails throughout the society, and overall ethicality or morality of action can be determined based on the universal law. And coming to the next part, these are the sources. Basically you need to have each examples which you can remember. For family, how it positively inculcates ethics in it, it negatively inculcates ethics in it, because sometimes family also inculcates a sense of selfishness also. It There are many cases where wives, not only wives, spouses, let's use gender neutral terms, spouses uh, a little bit push the other partner towards uh, corruption or any other illegal means. It promotes a bit of our family, our feeling, so it is a bit selfish when you talk about the overall society. And there are various positive values: empathy, compassion, sharing, caring, all those you'll get from family. Again, society, what are the positive things which you learn, negative things which you learn? Again, positive things from culture, religion, education, laws, experience, conscience. All these you need to have. Whenever there is a specific term, you need to have definition. Conscience is that inner voice which tells you whether what you are doing is right or wrong. Religion, culture, all, for all these you need to have positive, negative with examples. Laws, you can use definition of Thomas Aquinas. And when it comes to the determinant, what determines the ethicality of action is all these sources from where you got your ethics, plus the time period in which you are living, because ethics changes as per time to time. What is ethical in 16th or 17th century cannot be ethical in today's modern 21st century. So time period also matters, and circumstances also matters. What is the intention for taking that action by you? What are the means you employed to undertake that action, and what is the end which you finally achieved through that action? All these determine whether an action is ethical or not. So you can think on these lines and able to write a better answer. And whenever you are writing an answer, keep a short, crisp argument based on the tools which we have discussed right now, and substantiate it with examples or any other thinker's concept. So I'll show you a little bit about my notes, and then we'll come to the questions part, to the toppers copies. So just see, this is what the notes which I've made for this 2023 attempt, before 22 attempt also. I've compiled John Day's definition, established standards of society, and you can use some concepts of Cicero, summum bonum, which is highest or ultimate good. You can also use Aristotle's eudaimonia, and these are the sources which I've talked about. These are the determinants. This is the definition of morals which I would quote, and this is the definition of R.K. Mukherjee's values, elements of life which we hold as important or desirable. And when it comes to ethics and morality, I used to think on this lesson. I need to write 1.1 definition. I need to differentiate the nature of ethics and morality, source of ethics and morality, the sectors where ethics is more important, like professional ethics of doctors, lawyers, and such other things, and where morality becomes more important in the private life. What is the purpose of ethics? To bring credibility or trust among individuals. And what is the purpose of morals? For a bit more sense of purpose and innate morality. What happens if you violate ethics? There will be ostracization. You'll be ostracized by the society. Kapanchats do especially such kind of thing. And what will happen if you violate morality? You yourself will feel guilty feeling, contempt, all such things. Inner thing starts, and the interrelationship between them. So in those lines, I think and write the ethics and morality. And again, for ethics and values, I think on this in the definition, what they are: principles, stimuli for things. This is the ethics. This is the values. Consistency. How consistently ethics or values can be applied. What they determine: rightfulness. Ethics determine the rightfulness or wrongfulness of actions. Values determine the level of importance for what you're trying to achieve, what they do. They constrain people. Ethics especially, values especially motivate people to do it. So these things I pre-prepared so that I can think on these lines and quickly write an answer. Again, for the morals and values part, definition, what their consistency. If you find any of these useful, you can actually straight away take it. So again, this is from the consequences part. I'll be dealing in the next video. How what is the consequences of incorporating ethics in your actions, the positive consequences, and what are the negative consequences of not incorporating ethics in your actions, for human well-being, for organization well-being, for in general social well-being. Divide it into such lines. We'll be dealing with it in the next video. So this is the Hobbes social contract. Whenever you find some good quotes, you can collect and keep in handy so that you can quote them in the especially conclusion part. A good law and corrupt morality and vice versa cannot coexist. Such kind of things. So, and one more substantiation which you can use is the rule of law index whenever law comes. You can use the definition of Thomas Aquinas in introduction part. You can use rule of law index in any of the uh, points or arguments which you are trying to say. For example, laws alone does not determine, because we have so many laws, but still India ranks a bit low. So such kind of things you can actually. This is another quote. Uh, which says that automatic control on minds is far more superior than supervision from above through laws. So basically, it is trying to show that in each and every scenario, you cannot supervise people through laws. So automatic control on minds, that is incorporation of ethics and values in minds, is much more superior. This is what this quote is talking about. And especially in the 2022, there was one question where 5 concepts were given, and they are just asking to quickly tell the examiner what you understand of them. So such few concepts can be prepared beforehand. So few things which I have prepared is moral fiber, ethical conduct. So if you find any of them useful, you can quote. There is no such question from 2023, but we never know. UPSC can again revive this pattern and bring up in 2024 attempt. I wrote 2023 mains, but there was no such question on these lines. Moral fiber is basically people's own inner strength when it comes to the moral decision making about what is right or wrong. How strongly you feel whether it is right or wrong. That is the moral fiber. So basically, conscience is a huge part. So I've quoted this. I'll quote this as substantiation. Adam Smith talks about conscience as the impartial spectator. Whatever you're doing, there is one impartial spectator right beside you, and trying to judge whether what you're doing is right or wrong. That is the inner conscience. So ethical conduct is simply behavioral part, nothing more in it. So see the law, Thomas Aquinas decision, by heart it, quote it. And moral earnestness, this is sincerity. Many people have morals, but how sincere they are towards following those morals, that is about the moral earnestness part. So again, Lawrence Kohlberg's the stages of moral values development, which are taught pre-conventional, conventional, post. Some diagrams you can prepare hand before itself. From beliefs you develop values, from values you develop attitude. This is actually for the attitude part, which will be coming in the later part. So values also will be dealing later. Such kind of innovative topics you can think of. Moral equilibrium is something on the sorts of a balance where constantly it is trying to show whether you are tilting towards immorality or whether you are trying to tilt towards morality. So it is kind of like a moral scoreboard. Basically, your inner conscience is trying to keep constantly think, array, today I have done so many immoral actions, I have to do something to remove myself of this guilt. Sometimes people do charity and such other things, and in Christianity they'll go to church and convey all their sins to the church father. There are many other things which people do. So all those things come to moral equilibrium. And moral imagination is another concept. It is there are full various ranges of possibilities in a particular situation in which you can take a course of action. This is basically important when it comes to the case study part, where you can actually use this in any, before writing the course of action, you can use this as something on the lines of you can think on this lines, moral imagination. The full range of possibilities in a particular situation in order to solve an ethical challenge. Whenever there is an ethical dilemma, what are the various options you can choose from, and the morality of each of those things. So again, moral myopia is something is short-sightedness. We are unable to see a long range perspective. So something on the moral pluralism, nothing is singular or universally correct. So there are multiple moral issues in an ethically complicated scenario. So this talks about moral pluralism, such concepts as moral reasoning. whenever you undertaken an action and you have some doubts whether it is moral or not, how you are able to justify your actions is what is moral reasoning. So moral absolutism, some morals are absolute in nature: love, compassion, empathy. They do not change with time. In any time period, in any society, they do not change. They come under moral absolutism. But some are relative. They change as per time, space, situation. For example, we talked about, especially religious based morality is usually comes under moral relativism. It keeps on changing as per society or time, space, and situation. Moral policing, nowadays this is frequently in use regarding the Iran case, Mehsa Amini case, how moral police have killed her for not wearing a hijab properly. So even in India, many people, especially on Valentine's Day or any other day, if they are seeing couples on parks or something, they'll straight away assume that they are doing something wrong, or that action itself should not be done in public. They'll try to marry them. They'll try to make the girl tie Rakhi on the guy. So such kind of moral policing happens in India also. And there are some protests against such kind of things also, especially in Kerala. There is one laptop protest. So basically, girls deliberately sit on the top of laps of boys to protest and say that what they are doing is their choice, and such kind of moral policing acts should not occur. So see, one youth in Kerala is killed, Mehsa Amini's case, laptop protests, such kind of things. Just keep in mind. Virtue based ethics we have talked about. C is the courage part. I forgot. I'm sorry. But you remember Justice World Trade Center. Try to remember in that way. Consequentialism we talked about. J.S. Mill, libertarianism we talked about. Deontology we talked about. Communitarianism, contractarianism. Yeah, all these things we talked about. So basically, once again, I want to summarize. Any question on this ethics or essence or determinants part, just try to think on these lines. Definition of John Day. Specific words such as Cicero's Summum Bonum or Aristotle's Eudaimonia. If it is versus definition, diagrams such as these lines. Relationship diagram, again for values, definition, examples, all these things become extremely important. Whatever theories we talked about, use all those and try to understand questions for this part. Whenever there is questions on this part, you should immediately your mind should immediately go to your notes part, where you have already written your key concepts which you can be used as tools, and use those tools quickly to align to the demand of the question, substantiate it, and then quickly complete the answer in 7.5 minutes. So let's see a few questions from Ishta Kumar's topper's copy. She's first ranker, as everyone knows. So this is her copy, and just some of her answers are really beautiful, and just try to see how crisp her arguments are. She's not explaining too much. She's not beating around the bush. Simply straight away she'll write definitions, she'll write examples, she'll even the argument also she'll condense it in a very crisp manner. I'll be showing you a bit in this. We'll talk about it a bit more. So basically this is on the 2022 pattern only. They're talking about differentiating between gratitude and gratification, myopia and moral muteness. Such kind of concepts can come. In 23 they did not come, but they can always come in 24. So keep looking out for them. Gratitude she defined, gratification she defined. The only thing is she didn't straight away give example here itself, but at the end anyways she gave example. But you can always improve. Whenever you are writing a definition, straight away give an example. Here an example, here an example. And for the gratitude part, she is saying that basically whenever we express gratitude, when we actually derive gratification, she's trying to differentiate which is inward from outward. So basically she gave 2 points, one example, one definition for each. 1 point, 2 points, 3, 4 points with definition and example in the first part. So what you need to understand from this is, for writing first subpart of the answer, you don't have to write multiple points. You need to write 4 to 5 good points and substantiate them with answers. And in the intro part, you need not think about so innovative things. Straight away give one definition. Again, similarly, definition of moral myopia, moral muteness. You can always improve. Write examples of these straight away here itself. She anyways wrote at the end. It doesn't matter. Here she gave a bit more, three more differentiations. See, I don't want you to understand the conceptual part, what she is trying to write. I'm just trying to make you understand how quickly you can complete an answer in 7.5 minutes. Straight away define two definitions, 2-3 differences which she can think of, and example which she can think of. So basically framing an answer should be on these lines. And you can always read whatever these concepts are. Moral myopia is short-sightedness of morality. You are only thinking about the short-term benefit and not the long-term benefit. And moral muteness is you're basically being mute and not taking any action when you're faced with an immoral situation. So basically recusing yourself from immoral situation is what moral muteness is. You can always learn the concept. Again, see, one thing which I want to teach you here is whenever in such kind of quotes, justice without force is futile, force without justice is tyrannical. It is talking about, if you condense such kind of quotes, basically there are two concepts, A and B. In this quote, A is justice, B is force. And it is saying A without B is one thing, B without A is one thing. So whenever such kind of quotes come, you can straight away use the Venn diagram concept. Here justice, here force. This part becomes the justice without force part. This is both justice and force. This is just force without justice. So justice without force is futile. You can quote it here. Futile. Force without justice is tyrannical. You can show it here. And both justice and futile, what it becomes, you can actually use it as synthesis for conclusion. Such kind of quotes you can actually, when you prepare beforehand, your mind will quickly think. You cannot directly think and innovate a new way straight away in the examination hall. There is no time. Whenever you think in the examination hall, you lose 10 to 15 seconds. So whatever you are going to do, as there is this one quote, sweat before war so that you do not bleed during the war. Something on that lines. So just try to see what she's trying to do with the justice and force. According to John Rawls, the concept of justice is fairness. So basically she's defining justice, and the right comes before the concept of good. Justice without force. She made this as first part. She gave few arguments, and for each argument she gave an example. This is what I am trying to tell you, how to write crisp arguments. Just ignore whatever she wrote as argument. Just simply just see this is the structure of the argument. This is the first argument. Laws 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 words in the argument. She's not writing laws help justice help getting justice without force by equipping one to approach authorities and this and that. She's not elaborating so much. Using only 5 big words, she finished the argument. Straight away gave a small example. Again the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 big words is the whole argument and the substantiation example. Again 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 words is the one argument. So you can understand that if you are explaining and writing 8 to 10 words in an argument, and she is writing 4 to 5 words in an argument, for every 4 arguments you write, she will write 8 arguments. And you can understand why you are unable to finish the ethics paper and why she is able to finish the ethics paper. And I think I'm 100% sure she got some 130 plus or something. So this is what I'm trying to understand. Whenever you and to write this in a crisp manner, you have to write multiple times and develop that habit. It doesn't come straight away. Just see how she's structuring the arguments. Laws which equip one to approach authorities. She's not explaining laws. She's explaining laws which equip one to approach authorities. Morals when society condemns injustice. So this injustice, authorities, such kind of specific words she's using and straight away finishing the argument. She's not explaining ethics. how laws, how morals, how ethics, all these are bringing justice without force. She's trying to explaining. So she did not explain laws, she did not explain morals, she did not explain what ethics is. So she's basically saying laws helps one to approach authorities and no need to use force. She's not writing no need to use force and all that. Laws help in directly approaching authorities. Morals, morals when society condemns injustice. That straight away she's writing personal values and behavior ethics. I think personal values and behavior should go to morals part, and society condemns injustice should come to ethics part. Maybe she was in a hurry or something, but roughly on these lines. So force without justice, again she's writing. She brought a new concept, Leviathan state. Leviathan is a monster, under ocean monster. So Leviathan state something pertains to on this lines. I don't know about this, but it will be something on that lines. It is some under ocean monster. So maybe a state acting as such a monstrous authority or something. So she brought such innovative concepts. Now you can direct borrow this. Use Google or ChatGPT to understand what is Leviathan state. Even I have to do this. Again, straight away see the arguments. One argument, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 big words and straight away example. 2 big words and straight away example. See how short and crisp her answers are. Especially when you have lack of time, and not even when you have lack of time. Straight away from the start, you need to write in this way, so that lack of time concept does not arise itself. And just count the number of points also, then you will understand. Something as intro, 3 points with examples, conclusion. Intro, 3 points as examples, conclusion. This is what you need. 8 points, 4 in first subpart, 4 in second subpart, 1 intro, 1 conclusion will fetch you very good marks if your points are not elaborative but crisp and with substantiation, either through concepts or examples. So this is what you can learn from it. This is from the dimensions part. So we'll be dealing with this in the next video. So as I summarized, you use the concepts or tools which I call for aligning to the demand of the question, and straight away finish the question. And in the next video we'll be talking about consequences and dimensions of ethics, international ethics, medical ethics, environmental ethics, such things. And one target which you should be keeping is by December 31st you should be finishing optional ethics and essay, if you want to reliably clear in this attempt itself, and not just clear prelims and then falter in main stage. So just keep this in mind, and this is it from my side. Thank you.